The Desperate Salesman Next Door. A timeless life lesson about self-blame and the illusion of control. Chapter 1. Once upon a time, there was a man named Grady Mallon. He had the kind of life that moved quietly. He woke up early, worked hard, came home tired, and rarely spoke about what he wanted. For 16 years, he had worked as a nurse in a long-term care facility for the elderly. It was the kind of place people didn't talk about unless they had to. The halls always smelled faintly like disinfectant, and the lights never turned off completely. Grady made $20 an hour, no matter how heavy the patients were or how long the shift lasted. He fed people who couldn't hold a spoon. He changed diapers on grown men. He listened as patients called him names, mistook him for someone else, or sat in silence for hours. He didn't hate it, but he hated that it felt endless. He wanted something else. Not something flashy, just something freeing. He wanted to leave work early, to eat lunch without a pager buzzing, to look at a bill and not feel heat behind his eyes. And he wanted to build something, not with his hands, but with his own decisions. He wanted to say he created something, even if it was small. So he tried. He tried things like drop shipping. He tried flipping old electronics online. He once spent 3 months on a course about selling t-shirts with clever slogans. None of it worked. Not because he was lazy, because it was always the kind of work that made promises before asking questions. After a while, he started saying less to his wife. She never mocked him or said, "I told you so." But the silence between his efforts grew longer. She just asked about bills. He just said, "I'm figuring it out." Then, one night, well past midnight, Grady sat at the kitchen table, scrolling on his phone with a half-empty mug of coffee in front of him. He wasn't really reading anything. He was just avoiding sleep. That's when he saw the ad. The video was simple. A clean-shaven man in a dark office spoke directly into the camera. He didn't shout or flash money. He talked about the struggle of being overlooked, the feeling of being made for more. Grady kept watching. The man said he was part of a B2B startup. They were expanding. They had developed a proprietary tool for local businesses, a bundled product that helped with marketing automation, digital signage, point-of-sale optimization, or something else that sounded just technical enough to feel serious. It wasn't clear what the product was exactly, but the man spoke with calm confidence. "You don't have to invent anything," he said. "You just have to introduce it to the right businesses. The system does the rest." Grady clicked. The site was black and silver, sharp fonts, big testimonials. The words "scalable income," "pre-approved leads," and "limited territory" stood out. It cost $2,997 to join. In return, you received your own partner territory, a batch of branded product kits to distribute, access to a training portal, and a private mastermind group for sales support. Grady stared at the number. His savings could cover it. Barely. He opened a new tab and searched for reviews. There weren't many. The few that existed were vague but hopeful. He looked at the page again. This felt different. It wasn't a trendy online product. It wasn't selling to strangers on the internet. It was business to business. Real world. Face to face. It felt legitimate. He sat in the dark for a long time. At 5 in the morning, he walked into the bedroom. His wife was just waking up. "I think I found something," he said. She rubbed her eyes. "Another side thing?" "No," he said. "This is different. It's real. They've already got the materials. All I have to do is get it in front of business owners." He smiled a little. "Get ready. This might be the last job I ever need." She didn't smile. She didn't argue either. She just looked at him for a long moment and nodded. Grady placed the order. 3 days later, a medium-sized box arrived with branded tape and bold print that read, "Local First Pro Bundles, Authorized Partner Package." Inside were 10 starter kits, small boxes with shiny inserts, stacked beside a slim pitch folder and a guide titled, "The Psychology of Closing." There was a QR code for logging into the mastermind group. The kits looked professional. Heavy. The type of thing a business owner might put on a shelf. He imagined handing one across the counter. "This is a game changer," he would say. He wouldn't sound desperate. He would sound confident. Grady closed the box gently and sat with it for a while. This wasn't a hobby. This was his move. This time, it had to work. Chapter 2. Failures Piled High. Grady gave himself 2 days to prepare. He watched every training video in the portal. Twice. He highlighted lines in the pitch guide and practiced his opener in the mirror. He even ironed his shirts, the ones with firm collars that made him feel more put together than he really was. The plan was simple. He would walk into small businesses downtown, cafes, salons, printing shops, dentist offices, and introduce himself as a partner for something called Local First Pro. He would speak with confidence. Just enough energy to seem like a man who knew what he was doing, not so much that it felt like he was selling. The first morning, he drove into town, parked near Main Street, and sat in the car for 10 full minutes. It had been years since he introduced himself to a stranger without a badge or a uniform. He eventually got out, straightened his shirt, and walked into the first shop. It was a boutique that sold organic soaps and home decor. The owner smiled, listened to his pitch, and politely said they were not interested. The second business was a barber shop. They were busy. No one made eye contact. At the third place, a dry cleaner, the woman behind the counter said, "We already have something like that, but thank you." Grady nodded, smiled, and walked back outside. He repeated this process the rest of the day. 9 businesses, 9 rejections, none of them cruel, but none of them curious either. He drove home in silence. That night, he didn't say much. He told his wife he was just getting warmed up. The next day was more of the same. A few people nodded politely. One person asked a question he didn't know how to answer. Another waved him off before he finished his second sentence. He tried to stay composed, tried to stay in the right energy, like the coach said. At the end of week 1, he had 0 sales. No one had taken a kit, not even for free. Grady logged into the mastermind group for encouragement. The chat room was full of half-motivational phrases and vague celebrations. "Just made my first sale this week, never stop believing." "Momentum is building, don't break the flow." "Remember, it's not the pitch, it's the posture." Grady scrolled through the posts, trying to absorb something from them. He left a comment, "Still getting started. Looking forward to my breakthrough soon." Nobody replied. He went back out the next week, a bit less sure of himself, but still clean-shaven and dressed to impress. He started altering the pitch. Shorter intro, faster close, more focus on the ROI, still nothing. The kits stayed in his bag. Every conversation ended the same way. "Thanks, but we're good." By the end of week 2, doubt began to creep in. Grady told himself it was just timing. Maybe he had started on the wrong foot. Maybe he was being too formal, or not formal enough. He changed his approach again. Then one morning, tired, frustrated, unsure, he stood by the front door with his sales bag in hand. The house was still. The kids were gone. His wife was already at work. He paused, looked at the door frame, and without thinking too much, he knocked twice with his knuckles. A small, deliberate tap-tap. Then, under his breath, he said, "This time it'll work." He didn't know why he said it. It just came out. And later that day it happened. A small furniture shop tucked between two bigger stores let him talk for 5 full minutes. The owner seemed interested. He asked questions. He said he liked the packaging. Said it looked slick. Then he asked how much the bundle cost. Grady answered. The man thought about it, shrugged, then said, "Hey, sure, we'll try one. Looks professional." Grady nodded, kept his face calm, and wrote up the invoice. He walked out with a $5,000 check in his hand. He didn't speak. He didn't smile. He just walked straight to his car, sat down, and stared through the windshield. After a long pause, he looked at his hand holding the check, and then at the front door of the shop. And then he thought about the tap. He walked out with a $5,000 check in his hand. He didn't speak. He didn't smile. He just walked straight to his car, sat down, and stared through the windshield. After a long pause, he looked at his hand holding the check, and then at the front door of the shop. And then he thought about the tap. It came back to him slowly. The way he paused at the door that morning. The way his knuckles landed on the wood. Not random, not soft. It was 2 clean knocks. Firm, intentional. And then the words, "This time it'll work." Grady sat back in his seat, still holding the check, and let the thought settle. What if it wasn't the pitch? What if it wasn't the product? What if it was the tap? The idea made his chest warm. His shoulders loosened. And for the first time in weeks, he smiled. Not a small smile, a big one. He started the engine and drove home. The whole way there, he kept thinking, that tap did something, I know it did. Chapter 3, The Video. Grady pulled into the driveway with the check still in his hand. The lights were already on inside. He could see movement through the window. His youngest walking toward the kitchen, his wife's back turned as she stirred something on the stove. He sat in the car for a moment, gripping the steering wheel. He could have walked in right then and said the words. It worked. I sold it. But instead, he quietly grabbed his bag, opened the front door, and walked straight past them. His wife looked over her shoulder. "Hey, you're back," she said. Grady nodded without a word and kept walking. He went to the back room, set his bag down, and opened his laptop. He didn't pause. He didn't explain. He went straight to the group. Grady clicked New Post and typed slowly. Made my first sale today. Local furniture shop. Big thank you to everyone here. But I did something different this morning. Right before I left, I tapped on my front door. Twice said, "This time it'll work." And it did. He didn't expect much, maybe a few likes, maybe a congrats or two. But within minutes, the comments started rolling in. That's alignment, brother. Rituals open the flow. I tap my desk every morning before calls. Energy matters. You were in sync. That's the difference. Then one comment stood out. It was from Charlene, the woman who had appeared in one of the onboarding videos. Confident, polished. The one who called herself a growth mentor and co-led the weekly mindset calls. She replied, "Yes, I do a ritual before every pitch. You're in rhythm now. Keep honoring that tap. Don't break the alignment." Grady read her comment 3 times. Don't break the alignment. It felt like permission. Like confirmation of something he had felt, but hadn't dared say out loud. He didn't need more training. He didn't need to tweak the script. He needed to protect what had worked. Repeat it. Lock it in. Grady read it 3 times. He stared at the word alignment. That's what it was. That's what he had felt. Like something had finally lined up and the universe had opened a small door, just wide enough to let a check pass through. He didn't even notice the time. He didn't notice that his wife was calling for dinner, or that his son had walked to the door, looked in, then turned away. Grady sat there in the glow of the screen, not saying a word, not moving, just replaying the tap in his mind. 2 knocks, the phrase, the feeling. This wasn't random, this was real, and he wasn't going to change a thing. Chapter 4. Selling a Dream. Grady woke up early the next morning, earlier than usual. The house was still quiet. No cartoons on the TV, no coffee brewing, no movement in the hallway. He lay in bed with his eyes open, replaying the previous day from beginning to end. The knock, the words, the feeling, and the check. By the time his feet hit the floor, he already knew how the morning would go. He would do everything the same. Same shirt, same shoes, same route, same parking spot, same timing. He wasn't going to take any chances. Before he even left the bedroom, he stood still and closed his eyes. He said quietly, "I am aligned. I am chosen. Today responds to me." He pictured the sale, the smile on the owner's face, the pen gliding across the check, his own hands accepting it. He saw it all before it happened, just like yesterday. At the door, he paused. He breathed in slowly, positioned his bag over his shoulder, placed 2 fingers against the wood and knocked twice. Not too hard, not too soft. Then, in the same low tone as before, he whispered, "This time it'll work." He didn't smile after. He didn't joke with himself or roll his eyes. He took the moment seriously, like someone carrying out a small private ceremony. He walked to the car with purpose. That day, Grady visited 9 businesses. He pitched cleanly. He adjusted his words when someone looked confused. He listened more. He even left behind 2 product kits, confident that the owners would call him the next day. No sales came, but he didn't panic. Not yet. He told himself it was a test, a curve in the pattern. That's what Charlene would say. She often posted about holding the frequency even when results stall. So Grady kept the faith. That night, he lit a candle in the kitchen and wrote in a notebook labeled Alignment Log. He wrote the names of the businesses he visited, the mood he was in, the time of his tap, and the exact words he said before leaving the house. He added a new section at the bottom titled Mindset Ritual. Under it, he wrote, Visualization. Completed affirmation, spoken once, slowly. Breath, deep, held for 3 seconds. He wasn't being obsessive, he was being disciplined. The next day, he changed one thing. He added a brief moment of silence after the tap. Just a breath, a pause. He wrote that down too. He kept the same shirt, the same bag. Still no sale. Day after day, he showed up, knocked, spoke the phrase, rehearsed the moment in his mind, repeated the affirmations like a sacred script, logged the details at night. His family noticed the shift. He seemed more focused, more organized. He shaved every morning. He ate faster. On the surface, it looked like hope. But under the surface, something else was taking shape. Grady was no longer just selling a product. He was chasing a moment. That one good day, that single check. He believed it had worked because he had worked. Because he had tapped with real belief, with full trust. And so now, every day he didn't make a sale became a question mark hanging over his head. Did I tap too fast? Did I speak without conviction? Did my doubt get in the way? The mastermind group didn't help. Charlene posted regularly about posture, energy, and cleansing your narrative. Other members shared stories of small wins tied to routines, burning sage, journaling with crystals, walking backwards into a pitch to rewire the timeline. Grady didn't do all that. He just stuck with the tap, the door, the phrase. But he made sure it was perfect, every single day. Chapter 5. The Morning Routine. Grady didn't think of it as superstition. To him it was structure, discipline, cause and effect. Each morning began the same way. He would sit on the edge of the bed at exactly 6:22 a.m., hands resting on his knees, breathing in through his nose for 4 counts, holding for 3, and exhaling through pursed lips. No phone. No noise. Just breathe. Then came the mirror. He stood in front of it, shoulders back, head high, and repeated the same 3 lines. Today responds to me. The door's open because I do. I carry results in my hands. He didn't smile when he said it. This wasn't cheerleading, it was recalibration. He believed if he said the words flat, without excitement, without fear, it would neutralize any lingering doubt. He wore the same faded blue button-up every day, same black slacks, same pair of polished loafers, same satchel on the same shoulder. He placed his business cards in the right jacket pocket and 3 demo kits in the left. Before leaving, he'd stand still at the front door. He'd close his eyes and replay the first sale in his mind. The handshake, the check, the click of the pen on the glass counter. Then he'd lift his hand and tap the wood. Once, twice, soft but firm. Then he'd whisper, "This time it'll work," and step out without hesitation. For weeks he did this. Each pitch was clean, professional, warm. Grady was no fool. He'd been speaking to patients for years. He knew how to read discomfort, how to lower his voice when someone looked tired, how to shift posture if someone leaned away. But the rejections continued. Some were polite. Others didn't even let him finish. Each evening he wrote in the alignment log. He noted the humidity, the time he tapped, whether he'd paused long enough between breath and knock, whether his visualization that morning had been vivid or dull. One night he realized he'd said the affirmation too quickly. He'd been distracted. His son had asked him for something mid-ritual. That day, no one even let him past the door. He circled that page in red. Too fast, he wrote. Mind not centered. Weak field. The next morning, he doubled his breath work. Repeated the affirmations 5 times instead of 3. He visualized each handshake until he felt heat in his palms. Then, with a full breath, he tapped. Once, twice. And stood still for 5 seconds, eyes closed. He walked to the car without turning back. Still no sale. His wife had stopped asking how it was going. She made small comments. Dinner's in the fridge, or asked him to pick up toothpaste if he passed a store. Grady took that as a sign she believed in the process, too. She was leaving him room to build. In the Facebook group, the tone was shifting. More posts about energy leaks, more advice about doubt blocking the flow. Someone shared a screenshot of a DM from Charlene that read, "If it's not working, go back to the moment it last did. Ask yourself, who were you that day?" Grady read it 5 times. Who was I that day? He began to time his knockdown to the second. Bought a small metronome from the flea market to perfect the rhythm. Set reminders to smile halfway through the pitch, even if they weren't listening. The sale, he believed, hadn't come from chance. It had come from calibration. A rare alignment of self, story, and spirit. And if he could re-enter that state, hold it long enough, he'd break through again. Every morning he did more. But every night the page remained blank under one heading. Sales today, 0. Chapter 6. Systems Return. Grady didn't call it slipping. He called it expanding his options. On a Wednesday afternoon, after another full day of closed doors and half nods from shopkeepers, he stopped at the gas station and filled the tank halfway. Then, without thinking, he walked inside and bought a scratch-off ticket. He didn't scratch it immediately. He held it in his palm, drove home, sat in the driveway for a minute, then used a house key to slowly reveal the numbers. Nothing. Not even a free ticket. Still, he told himself it was harmless. Just something light. A reset. That night, after his wife and son had gone to bed, Grady opened the browser and typed in a site he hadn't visited in over a year. A day trading dashboard. His old login still worked. He remembered the feeling, the charts, the promise of fast wins, the illusion of control. He didn't deposit money that night, just browsed, read a few posts, watched a clip on candlestick patterns, then closed the tab and told himself it was just research. No harm in learning. By the weekend, he had $200 in a new brokerage account. Small, just a toe in the water. He told himself he would only trade on Fridays, just one trade a week, purely for alignment, to keep the pulse alive. He made a trade on a pharmaceutical stock. It dropped. He shrugged it off. He was rusty. The next Friday, he traded again. This one jumped 3%. He made $18. It felt like confirmation. Maybe the tap didn't only work for door-to-door. Maybe the tap was a key, a pattern. And maybe he just needed to apply it across all areas. With enough belief, he could open other doors too. So the ritual expanded. Now he tapped before logging into the brokerage site, tapped before checking messages, tapped before sending an email to a potential business client. 2 knocks. Then, this time it'll work. He believed it kept the field clean. Back in the Facebook group, the talk had shifted from scripts to spirit. Someone posted, "Nothing outside of you creates. You create first, then the world matches." Charlene replied with a fire emoji and the phrase, "I've seen this, again and again." Grady took a screenshot and saved it in a folder titled Fuel. But the days began to blur. He would go to pitch 3 places, make a small trade, listen to a mindset audio while eating toast, post a comment in the group, then stare at the boxes of product stacked in the corner of his living room. They hadn't moved. Not one had shipped since the first sale. Still, he adjusted the angle of his affirmation mirror by half an inch. Told himself the energy had shifted. Told himself Friday would be the day. Then he scratched another lottery ticket and lost again. Chapter 7. The Inner Collapse. The ritual took longer now. Each morning, Grady stood in front of the door with his shoulders squared. He wore the same navy polo from the day of the first sale. It had been washed so many times it no longer held its shape, but he believed the fibers remembered. He tapped. Once. Twice. Then he stood still with his eyes closed, whispering, "This time it'll work." He held the phrase until it felt true. Not just said, felt. If there was any hesitation in his gut, he would start over. Sometimes it took 2 tries. Other days, 5. One morning it took 13. His wife had started eating breakfast without him. She didn't ask questions. Their son stopped waiting for a goodbye. Grady practiced visualizations in the mirror before leaving. He pictured store owners smiling, shaking his hand, signing checks. He rehearsed lines from testimonials that didn't exist yet. He added affirmations now, spoken 3 times into the mirror. I am magnetic. My energy speaks first. They will say yes. And then silence, repetition, breath. Then the tap. But no sales. Not even interest. A few people glanced at the product and said they'd get back to him. But none ever did. He told himself it was energy. Maybe he carried a shadow of doubt, and people felt it. Maybe his words weren't clean enough. Maybe he had made the tap without true belief. So he started recording voice memos before each outing. You've already closed it. It's already done. He whispered these in his car before walking into businesses. Still nothing. At home, he grew quieter. He slept less. At night, he stared at the ceiling. The phrase kept echoing. This time, it'll work. His wife started watching shows in the bedroom with the door closed. Grady stopped trading. Even scratching tickets felt like betrayal now, like cheating on the tap. He didn't want to split the energy. Every ounce had to go into the belief. One evening, he stood outside a copy shop with sweat rolling down his spine. He looked at the door handle, took a breath, tapped his chest twice. A man inside made eye contact, shook his head, flipped the open sign to closed. Grady didn't get angry. He just turned, walked back to the car and sat. He drove home with the windows down and the radio off. When he got to the driveway, he didn't go inside. He just sat in the car, staring at the porch where the ritual began. He wasn't thinking. Just watching. Like maybe the door would move first. Chapter 8. The Big Discount. The first sign was the banner. Grady printed it at the same shop that once turned him away. He didn't mention the product. Just bold red letters, limited time business offer, 75% off. He hung it from the edge of his table at the local Saturday market. A spot cost $20. He set up next to a woman selling handmade soaps and a man offering customized keychains. He stacked the boxes neatly, displayed one open, its contents untouched, still sealed in their individual plastic bags. He propped up a printed flyer with vague benefits in bold fonts. Boosts efficiency, customer experience, seamless setup. It was a product that didn't really solve a clear problem, but it looked impressive, glossy, expensive, polished. He smiled at passers-by. Small business special today. 75% off, just clearing out my last batch. Some people stopped to read. A few asked what it did. Grady gave the same pitch. They nodded politely, walked on. By noon, he dropped the price even lower. Make me an offer, he added to the sign in marker. Nobody made one. The soap woman sold out by 2. The keychain man packed up early. Grady stayed until the last breeze knocked over one of his empty boxes. The next week, he tried again. New location, new sign. This time it read, Final inventory, only $99 today. Still nothing. He offered bulk deals to cafes. Buy 2, I'll throw in the 3rd free. He offered bundle discounts, even optional payment plans. He walked back into shops he'd already pitched, pretending they hadn't spoken. They remembered. One owner politely said, We're good for now. Another said, Didn't really get what it was for, honestly. Grady laughed awkwardly. It does a lot. You'd be surprised. But even he didn't sound convinced anymore. At home, he pulled up the Facebook group. He didn't post. Just scrolled. Most people weren't talking about sales anymore. They were sharing photos of vision boards, crystals, and checklists titled My Millionaire Morning, Charlene had posted about a new product line, an herbal supplement with quantum ingredient tracking. Dozens of comments poured in. "You're a genius. Can't wait to test mine. Let's all align and rise together." Grady typed half a message, then closed the tab. The next morning, he lowered the price again, now $49, practically giving it away. Still nothing. Not a single buyer. Not one. He looked at the inventory in his trunk. 23 boxes. He stared at them in silence, then muttered under his breath. Maybe they can feel it. Maybe they know I'm not in sync. But something inside him didn't believe it anymore. Chapter 9. The First and Only Buyer. Grady stood outside the shop for a moment before walking in. It was the same downtown furniture store from weeks ago. The one that had bought the $5,000 batch. His only buyer. His only win. The bell above the door jingled. A younger man behind the counter looked up. "Hey, can I help you?" Grady smiled politely. "Just wondering if your manager's in. I'm following up on the product we sold you a while back." The man disappeared into the back. A few moments later, a woman emerged. Mid-50s, short haircut, wide glasses. She didn't recognize him. Grady reintroduced himself. "I came by last month. Sold your store a full kit from Optimum Systems." She nodded slowly. "Oh, right. The silver boxes." "Yes," Grady said. "Just checking in to see how they've worked out for you. If you had any feedback, or maybe someone else you know who might be interested." The woman tilted her head. We haven't really used them, to be honest." Grady waited. Didn't say anything. She added, "Our intern thought they looked fancy, said they might impress customers, but they just kind of sat there." A pause. "Didn't really do anything, to be honest," she continued. "I don't think we even took the plastic off half of it." Grady nodded. "I see." She wasn't being rude, just honest. There was no malice in her tone. It was like she was talking about an umbrella she forgot to open. "We didn't restock," she added. "Didn't seem like something we needed." Grady thanked her for her time. Said he appreciated the feedback. Said it was helpful. She wished him luck. Grady thanked her for her time. Said he appreciated the feedback. She smiled kindly. "Hope it all works out." He walked out, the bell above the door chiming behind him. He didn't look back. Just kept walking. Quiet. Steady. Like someone who had finally heard the truth spoken out loud. Chapter 10. The Group Cracks. Grady got home and didn't tap the door. He didn't notice. He walked in, placed the sample case on the kitchen table, and went straight to the back room where his laptop waited. He sat down slowly. The glow of the screen lit up his face. The group's feed was busy, full of morning winds, quotes, emojis. He scrolled for a moment, then clicked New Post. No photo. No exclamation marks. Just a question. Is anyone still selling the boxes? He stared at it. Then clicked Post. Minutes passed. A like. Another. Then a comment. Nah, I gave up. Couldn't move any. Then another. A client told me they're outdated. Said their POS system already does that tracking automatically. Grady shifted in his seat. Another comment came in. I kept blaming my mindset. Thought it was doubt. But maybe people just don't want this stuff. That one hit different. He reread it. Then again. The same way he had read Charlene's comment weeks ago. Only this time his chest didn't warm. It sank. His eyes went to the sidebar. Charlene's profile showed green. Active. She hadn't commented. But 2 hours later, she posted in the group. So excited about our new product drop. Finally, something people are asking for. That was all. No reply to Grady, no follow-up, just a new pitch and a fresh start. He sat there, still. No music playing, no tabs open. Just the thread on screen and the hum of a tired laptop fan. He didn't tap the desk, didn't chant, didn't breathe deeply through the nose. He just sat there. Still. Chapter 11. No tap. This time. The next morning, Grady woke up before anyone else. He didn't lay in bed thinking. He didn't check his phone. He got up, walked to the garage, and opened the cabinet where he kept the boxes. The silver kits were stacked neatly, untouched. He ran a hand over one and pulled it out. Then another. And another. He moved with focus. No emotion on his face. He brought them inside, one trip at a time, and set them on the living room floor. 7 boxes, still sealed, still promising things no one asked for. He opened his laptop and logged into 3 community buy-sell groups, typed up the same message in each. B2B inventory. Free to anyone who wants, pick up only. He attached a photo, closed the laptop. No one replied that day. No one replied the next. By the 3rd day, the boxes were still there. He brought out packing tape and sealed them shut. He didn't label them. He didn't check the shipping info or wonder if someone might change their mind. He just carried them out to the curb, set them next to the recycling bin, closed the lid, walked back toward the house. The wind picked up as he reached the door. He stopped in front of it. For a second, his hand hovered. But he didn't tap. He opened the door and went inside. The screen door clicked shut behind him. That was it. No sound. No ritual. Just the quiet return of a man who blamed his mindset for an outdated product.